Insightful podcasts by informative hosts. Insights into Things, a podcast network. Welcome to Insights into Entertainment, a podcast series taking a deeper look into entertainment and media. Your hosts, Joseph and Michelle Whalen, a husband and wife team of pop culture fanatics, are exploring all things from music and movies to television and fandom.
Welcome to Insights into Entertainment. This is episode 100. The Thrill of the Hunt. I'm your host, Joseph Whalen, and my insightful and enlightened co-host, Michelle Whalen.
Hi, everyone.
How you doing today, sweetheart?
Good. How are you?
I'm cranky for some reason.
Yes, you are. I need to throw you a Snickers or something.
Yeah, I'm not really sure why. So we're doing something a little bit different today.
Yes, we are.
This was kind of your idea for the format of the show today, so why don't you tell us what we're doing?
So, normally each week we, highlight different articles that, have come up or stories that have come up. When we first started the idea of the podcast, we realized we wanted it to be like pop culture themed, and the idea was, when we go to conventions and toy shows and things like that, we'll be talking about that. And unfortunately for the past year, we haven't been able to do that aspect. So I thought for our 100th episode, we'd kind of, take a break from talking about the different news stories and things like that, and kind of give you a little bit of insight into the two of us and, our collections that we have. Obviously, you can see, in the studio some of the things that, we have, but, and maybe talk about how we got into it and what our collection entails and kind of give you guys a insight into, what our house looks like. I think it was always one of those things I wanted to do, like a little tour, because all of our friends who have, come to our house always marvel at our collection. It started out, with a little bit of mine, then yours grew, and over the years, it's grown. It's taken over the whole house.
Yes, it has.
So this was kind of, a Q&A, I guess, in some respects of what.
Without any cues.
Without any cues. Just a whole lot of A's.
So, what we're going to do to celebrate this technically 101 episode, but we won't count episode 0.
We have a whole lot of Dalmatians running around.
Exactly. It's a
should.
Disney, so it works.
It's Disney. There you go.
We're going to take a look at some of our collections.
Mm-hmm.
We have a video we did for your collection.
Mm-hmm.
Just a quick slideshow style panoramic of what we have out. Same thing with mine, so we'll talk about mine later in the show.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought it was kind of interesting for us to talk about, what got us started collecting.
Mm-hmm.
What's our inspiration? Why do we do it? Where do we get our stuff from? There's a lot of people out there that collect. We did this week's 100th episode of Insights into Teens. We did fun and games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we had a special guest on who's also a collector and kind of, I think, has sort of been a inspiration and motivation for some of what we've done as well. So it kind of fit the theme this week.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll talk about that. Then we'll highlight your collection, talk about your collection. You have a couple of special items that you've cherry-picked. I didn't, because all the items that I would want to highlight are actually packed away for safety at this point in time. So I don't have anything hands-on unless I grab something off the shelf here.
Right.
Because Lord knows I've got enough around here.
Right. There's a couple of Darth Vaders somewhere.
But we'll talk about, some of the stuff in my collection and what some of my prized possessions are. And we'll kind of go from there and a slightly different show today. Yeah. Shall we get started?
Let's do it.
All right. So I think the first thing that would probably be worthwhile talking about is when, and I'll ask you first, when did you start collecting and what prompted you to start collecting?
That's a good question. I'm not really sure. It's kind of funny because, not to, piggyback on the teens episode, where, Dan, who's a family friend, he knows the definitive when it was, like, what it was for him. He tells this great story, and anybody that knows him knows that it's the Lost in Space robot because he had asked for it for Christmas. He never got it, and that became his Holy Grail. He kept searching and searching for it, and that's what led him to it. I don't think there was anything for me where it was like, oh my God, I have to have this. It was always some sort of Disney thing. Back in the day, there really wasn't anything Haunted Mansion. Very, very, it's funny now finding various board games and model sets that came out in the 60s, 70s that had to do with the Haunted Mansion, but really Disney didn't merchandise based on their rides. Any merchandise that they did was really, t-shirts, with Mickey Mouse on it. They didn't really start doing a lot of the collectibles until much later on. Like, you could get something if you went to the park, so you figure, there were souvenirs. So I do have some of those in my collections that were souvenirs of when the park first opened. So I think it was just always, I remember doing snow globes, I think probably in the late 90s. I had actually I was a cast member of the Disney store back in the day, back when I was in college, so the mid-90s. So I started probably collecting a lot of the artwork, and that was back when they used to do the Carousel artwork. So I have a lot of that. So that was probably really what the first major collectible thing was. That I collected. Every now and then I would collect the Happy Meal toys. If they had like a whole set of Disney or Disney Park, really. I think that was the majority of what I was collecting. It wasn't necessarily Disney, but it was something to do with the Disney Park. And then obviously it grew to be the Haunted Mansion, and that's probably the majority of my collection, probably the majority of the more valuable stuff in some respects, but that's also more of the modern stuff too. I also have an extensive board game collection now, and a lot of those board games are from the 70s and 80s, so those are older. So I kind of have the gamut of, a little bit of everything, I guess you could say.
So a lot of people collect for the sake of investment. Mm-hmm. You buy an expensive piece of collectible merchandise, and the hope is it just goes up and eventually you sell it. Mm-hmm. Why do you collect? Do you collect as an investment? Do you collect for the nostalgia? Do you collect for the ambiance? What's the drive for you in collecting?
I don't think I've ever been a collector to think about what the value of it was going to be. If I buy this now at $20, I'll be able to sell it, later on for $40. I don't think that's ever been a goal, when looking for something. I think it's the enjoyment of having it. It's the thrill of finding it if it's, if it was a hard to find piece. And the nostalgia in some cases. I don't remember, I know for you, and you'll probably talk about it later on, there was I don't think there was really a toy that I had that I lost or I got rid of, and then I ended up buying it later on as an adult. Like, I don't remember there being, anything like that. So a lot of the older toys that I have aren't necessarily ones that I even maybe knew existed when I was a kid. It was just, oh wow, that's really cool. That's as old as I am, type thing. So it's really just to kind of add to the collection. And it's funny because after going through when my mom passed away and having to, get rid of everything in her house and everything, it kind of makes me think every time we go to a toy show or something, or we buy something else, I'm like, is this something else Madison's going to have to get rid of? But I'm hoping, that she'll actually want to keep some of it, maybe, possibly, or at least she can make some money off of it, or we start selling it, later on, in life, or maybe not. Maybe, we take it with us. Who knows?
So we talk about a lot of the different shows and toy shows and pop culture shows that we go to, and it's a great place to pick up a lot of collectibles. Where do you normally get your collectibles, or in the past, where have you traditionally gotten your collectibles from?
Well, the first, ones that I got came from the Disney store themselves, or from being at Walt Disney World. They have an art store, the Art of Disney. That's where their higher end items have come from. So that's where probably a good portion of my more modern pieces have come from. But then a lot of my older, more antique, collectible pieces, those have come from the one toy show that we go to in Delaware. That's I don't know what. Well, they would do it like twice a year. So so that was one where I picked up actually the Clubhouse Mickey, the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. I picked that up there. And let's see. So we had that one. Not really like Comic Cons, because that's really where more of the newer stuff is. Where was the one? It was at the Mansion. See, a lot of the toy shows too that we go to, they're usually like a one and done. Not a lot of them pop up throughout. We've picked up some stuff at flea markets, right. As well, that we've kind of, lucked out. So it's kind of like a luck of the draw thing. Excuse me. I think, a lot of the older pieces you got off of eBay, for birthdays and holidays and stuff that you've, added to my collection.
Yeah, eBay is a good source for some of the more obscure pieces that I managed to pull in for you. Although I've gotten into the habit of, it seems like every time we go to Disney, we always make a trip to Art of Disney, and I always wind up getting you something at Art of Disney now. Right,
that became kind of a tradition.
Right.
So a lot of, again, the newer stuff, like the Jim Shore collectibles and stuff. And that's the thing, too, is that there are certain artists who, in general, have pieces, and then they do a Disney line, and in a lot of cases you can only get that Disney line at a Disney art store. So sometimes it's hard to find pieces in other locations. So like Jim Shore as a example, he does various cartoon characters. He doesn't just do Disney. He does Snoopy, he does Wizard of Oz and things like that. And you can find a lot of his items at your local collectible store, like a Christmas store or something that has it. But any of the and you can find some of his Disney pieces there, but you will never find like a Haunted Mansion piece of his there. Those are exclusively sold at Disney. Same thing with the artist Shag, which I found out that's probably my most expensive, one of my most expensive collectibles. I have a frame print, which you'll see in the video that we did. Again, you can find some of his prints, but the majority of his Disney World or Disneyland prints are usually only sold at the parks, or, you know, that's where it's easier to find it. You might find, you know, like a private seller that's doing it, but the majority of them are sold in the parks.
Well, how about we take a quick break? We'll come back and we'll show your video first.
Okay.
And then you can talk about some of your pieces, and then we'll talk about my stuff afterwards. Sure. For over 7 years, the Second Sith Empire has been the premier community guild in the online game Star Wars: The Old Republic. With hundreds of friendly and helpful active members, a weekly schedule of nightly events, annual guild meet and greets, and an active community both on the web and on Discord. The Second Sith Empire is more than your typical gaming group. We're family. Join us on the Starforge server for nightly events such as operations, flashpoints, world boss hunts, Star Wars trivia, guild lottery, and much more. Visit us on the web today at www.thesecondsithempire.com. So that is the video we did for your stuff. Obviously, you can tell that the majority of what you have there was Haunted Mansion, but I did want to talk about that last piece that we saw there, the animated cell that you have there.
That's probably my, if I had to have like a most prized possession, that's probably close to.
That's
to
a
it.
pretty unique piece. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. That is from a company called Animated Lithographs, or Animated Animation, I think is the name of the company. Anyway, it's company was late 90s, and they had a couple of different, I want to say maybe 10 different types of animated lithographs. Again, that was back when art was kind of the big collectible. And they had a couple of different Disney ones. They actually came out with they came out with a Wizard of Oz one. I think they came out with a couple of Looney Tune ones. And that happened to be, I think, one of the first ones that actually came out, and it's Steamboat Willie. And I've had that for, 20-something years now that I think about it. Yeah, so that's probably, one of my most prized. It runs on batteries. When the batteries start dying, it just goes off in the middle of the night. And just, it was actually one of the pieces where it was having some issues, some technical issues, and I contacted the company, and they had me mail it to them for them to fix. And I could probably look online, but I don't even know if the company still exists. But what was cool was some of the more intricate ones that they created later on actually had like little LED lights in it that would light up and stuff. There was a Sorcerer Mickey one where it would do like the splashing water, and it would light up, and it would play the music from Fantasia. So that was a really cool one. But again, Steamboat Willie was always my favorite.
So you obviously have a fondness for horror, shall we say? There was
What
much
gave
more.
that away?
There was much more in that video, horror-wise, than just Haunted Mansion, though.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about some of the other horror collectibles you've got.
Sure. So some of the other collectibles would be a lot of Dracula, and various versions of Dracula. We have the Bela Lugosi Dracula, that I have a couple of dolls of that. There's the Nosferatu. There's a couple of, I think I have a Funko Pop of him in that, and then some other variations of him in that, and then obviously the Bram Stoker Dracula. I have a couple of different versions of that as well. So yeah, horror's kind of been, I've been a very classic horror fan for as long as I can remember, and I think that's where the Disney and the other pop culture kind of blend together so nicely with the Haunted Mansion. I don't think I really had as much Haunted Mansion stuff before we moved into the house, and I think it was, when we were living in our apartment, I had a couple of little pieces here and there, and when we moved into the house, our plan was that the living room was going to be my Haunted Mansion. That was the idea behind it. And so that's why it looks, that's why there's so much Haunted Mansion. So it basically looks like Halloween all year long. So I'm decorated for Halloween, Halloween all the time. So I think that kind of helped to fuel the fire of what we were going to buy, because if you remember, we would kind of start out with generic Halloween decorations that we would find. Halloween was the best time of year for me to redecorate the living room. That was kind of, what we would do. And as the years have gone on and Disney has released so much more Haunted Mansion stuff, but also, mainstream with like the Funko Pops and different things like that coming out, we kind of, changed things over. And during the pandemic, one of the things we did was we redecorated the living room. There's still one more piece of furniture that's going to get changed out once it becomes available at IKEA. But we redid the TV area, and we organized all the pops. I have a pretty extensive collection of living dead dolls. And that was really, again, it was one of those, because we went to toy shows and I saw these things, I was like, ooh, that would be really cool. That would be kind of cool to add. And really, up until a couple of months ago, everything was kind of all over the place. We really didn't have it as organized. And that was one of the things, you helped me do, where we redid everything and we said, okay, all the living dead dolls, now let's all put them over here. Everything that's Dracula, let's put it over here. Okay, here's where the Haunted Mansion stuff is. We kind of created, in the video, there's a whole little area of just the Madame Leota stuff. And she's the woman that's the crystal ball. So there's a whole little shrine to Leota. And what's kind of funny is the cat that's in the beginning of the video, she's Leota, and she's Leota because of the Haunted Mansion. So that's why, she was added. So we worked really hard to create, the balance of the Force, which is stealing your thing. But we kind of, changed it up to make it, so not only is it, obviously it's probably 80% Disney, but the other 20 is, extra horror stuff. And then I have some other little horror, things that aren't Dracula that are just kind of, thrown in there, as well.
So you've obviously got a pretty extensive collection just from what we've shown in the video itself, but there's other things that didn't make the video.
Right.
We have a curio in the kitchen that we did not get in to the video.
Right, and most of the stuff that's in the kitchen is probably more Mickey and Walt Disney World, related.
Right. So is there anything in the extensive collection that you have now that you want to highlight that might not have made that video?
Oh, well, the two pieces that I brought up here, maybe? I don't know. Do you want to talk about that?
That was your prompts. So show us what you've got.
All right. So the first thing that I will show is from the 1970s. It is a Walt Disney World lunchbox. So anybody that's, a child of the 70s, 80s remembers having these, lovely metal lunchboxes. What's special about this one is this was a gift from Dan, because Dan, being the collector that he was, he got his love of collecting from his grandmother. And his grandmother would basically just go to the store, see something, buy it, and leave it in the packaging and never take it out, because I don't know how she knew, but at some point she knew it was going to be worth something. So this was never used. When Dan actually gave it to me for my birthday, he still had the brown paper bag that it had come in when she bought it. One of the funny things is this one sticker is still on it. The Aladdin sticker talking about, the thermos and everything. The other thing that's really funny is the price sticker is still on it. It was $2.99. If you look on eBay, most of these you'll find are used and dirty and bent with lots of nicks and used, and they're going for like $40 to $50. This one is probably, I would say, probably more, maybe even $150, because the other thing too is, and not a lot of them that you find online have it, but if you look inside, it's nice and pristine, and the original thermos, never used. And this is still funny too. And the little sticker to write your name on it.
Nice.
Is still in there. So, yeah, this is probably, I would say, 150, 200, easy.
So there's people out there who dedicate their collections just to these metal lunch boxes.
Right.
They have entire collections of these because an entire series of these had been put out for 2 decades, I think, something like that. But the other piece that you have that you were going to show is, to me, I think is even more nostalgic because they don't make these anymore. Like the concept of the toy itself, like they still make lunch boxes, but they're plastic.
Right. Well, and the other thing too is the D23, the Disney, why can't I think of what's the D23?
Fan club?
Thank you. Oh my God. I was like, it's this club that you belong to. The fan club, they actually came out with a reproduction of the lunchbox, and inside had pins. And just the lunchbox with the pins was going for $85. And this was a gift that, if you were a member of the fan club, you got it for free. So it's kind of funny. So there's versions of the metal, lunchbox, floating out. But yes,
let me actually go to camera 3 for this one here so we can show it off. So what you have here is the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse.
Also from the 70s.
That's Weeble Wobbles.
It's the Weebles. Because, Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. So, wee.
So now this was a reflection of what, the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse TV show?
Yes, this was from the 1970s Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. So, most people remember the 1950s version with Annette Funicello and that whole Cubby and Karen and whatever. This came out in the 70s, and it was kind of in relation to the 70s version of the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. Now, this was not a complete set. The complete set came with a play mat that you would put it on, and also right here had a flag with a flagpole. But everything else, I actually have some of the Weebles are from multiple sets, because I think it only came with 4. It came with Billy, Karen, Pluto, and Mickey. And you have the little, the little TV camera, so you could put on your little TV show. You have your little mailbox, so you can get your mail, your little rocking chair. There's a little seesaw, and then...
So the front door opens.
And
don't worry, they won't fall down.
And you're not carrying off.
So where did you get this?
This one we ended up getting at the toy show that was held in Delaware. That toy show is it's linked with a train toy show. So, the one day it's the trains, and the second day it's toys. And it's, the majority of the toys are, older toys. They have some more modern stuff, but most of the vendors there are, people selling either their collection, or they might have a store and, they sell older things. And this just happened to be, one of the things. She had it in a box and make me an offer. I said, okay. and I made her an offer, and it became mine.
Now, have you made an effort to complete this by finding the other pieces that are missing?
Well, we actually ended up buying another one probably a couple years later. So I have another house, and some of the pieces from that set kind of help to complete this one. I don't think it's one of those things where I'm not a completist when it comes to that. So if I can get the full set, great. If I don't, all right, whatever, no big deal. It brings me joy. It's in our kitchen, so I see it every day, and I just go, makes me happy.
So is there a Holy Grail out there, a piece of unobtainium that you have not got your hands on that you very much would like to get your hands on? Something obviously within reach. I'm not talking about a $30,000 super rare piece or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think there is. Like, I don't. That's the thing for me. A lot of the things, like, until Dan had shown me this, lunchbox, I never knew it existed. But of course, now that I have it, I know they exist, and every now and then I kind of look online and say, "Ooh, how much is it going for?" Type thing. I don't think there's really. Maybe there's one thing, and it's one of those things where I remember it. It's probably the one and only thing that I remember from my childhood that I wouldn't even know how to look it up because I don't really remember that much about it. I remember it being like a piano, and I don't know if it was like a player piano type thing or what it was, but it played Disney music. And I think it had Mickey and Minnie on it. And I remember my father had it in his apartment, and I would play with it when I would go to visit him. But I don't really, I don't know if I saw a picture of it, if I could go, oh my God, that's it. That's probably, way, way back in my memory bank of everything. What I would want would be, like something from the Haunted Mansion. That's not really as obtainable or within my price range is really, so if the sky, if money were no object, it would be, something from the actual, ride itself. Or a costume even from one of the cast members, and that stuff, kind of floats around eBay.
Right.
And that's the thing is, if you give me like a couple of hours to look on eBay, I'm sure I could find something that would be like, oh, that would be really cool. I think for me, a lot of it is when we go to these toy shows and yard sale type things, and like I find something that I didn't know existed. And that's kind of ooh, that's really cool. I didn't know they made that. Of course, then I, go on my phone now and look to see how much it's going for so that I don't overpay. But yeah, for me, I don't think there's that, I gotta have it type thing.
So, do you sell any of your collectibles?
Nope.
Would you sell any of your collectibles?
I don't know. That's a good question. It's like, which child do you get rid of?
The one you like the least.
I don't know. Maybe if, the right price came around, or, if it was one of those, maybe some sort of bartering thing where, okay, I give you this to trade up for something, for something else. But I could probably see, us downsizing, our collection maybe at some point. There's somebody that I'm friends with on Facebook, a Disney collector. It's like, if you think we have an extensive collection, he has a freaking museum. Like, he actually has an outside warehouse. It's almost to the effect of the
Steve Sansweet.
Right, with all of his stuff. And he actually has from Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, an actual car from I can't even imagine how much I've always wanted to just message him and be like, what's a ballpark what your collection is worth? I'm sure it's in the millions. I can't imagine that it's not a couple of $1,000,000, and he's, and he has it broken down into different sections. So, different characters, and he has a very nice haunted mansion.
How much do you think your collection's worth?
I don't know. Would you say like 50,000?
I don't know. I don't know the value of most of your stuff, but sure.
Maybe. I don't think it's more than 50.
Okay.
I would say probably, because there's probably a couple of well, I know there's at least one piece that's $1,000, over $1,000, just that. And then there's, probably, so 30 to 50 maybe.
All right. Was there anything else you wanted to highlight before we go to commercial?
No, I don't think so.
All right. We'll be right back.
Insights into Teens, a podcast series exploring the issues and challenges of today's youth. Talking to real teens about real teen problems. Explore issues from braces to puberty, social anxiety to financial responsibility. Each week, we talk about the topics concerning today's youth. We look at how the issues affect teens, how to cope with these issues, and how parents, friends, and loved ones can help teens handle these challenges. Check out our video episodes on youtube.com/insightsintothings. Catch our audio versions on podcast.insightsintoteens.com or on the web at insightsintothings.com.
So that is a somewhat disorganized look at most of my collection, which is consists almost entirely of Star Wars, but mostly of Darth Vader and Sith Lords.
Right.
One of the things that was up on the wall in the shot there's an energy sword from Halo that is up there. I used to collect swords, and in fact, when we moved to the house, none of my swords made it up on the wall. They're all out in the shed right now. But
Right.
that was acquired after the move.
Right. So when did you start collecting?
I started collecting. I would say I started collecting probably in 1980 when I had my Star Wars year for Christmas.
Okay.
Because everything that I got that year I had retained, and unfortunately lost after I moved out of my mother's house and left it all in the attic. And when my mother passed away, my brother took control of the house. And then when he moved and downsized, I have no idea where any of that stuff went. So I was a collector at that time, but I was not a conscientious collector. I did not buy one to play with and one to collect.
Right.
So everything I had was out of the box. In fact, some of the ships that were in the video were some of my original ships from my youth.
Very cool.
So
what would be your most prized possession?
See, I when I think of collecting, I think of two different categories. I think of the nostalgic part of it,
Okay.
and then I think of the valuable, designed to be collected part of it. So one of the things that I try to collect are original figures.
Right.
So of that genre, probably the most important one that I think I have is I do have a carded Empire Strikes Back Darth Vader that I had acquired at our antique toy show down in Delaware at the Nerd Temple down there. It's not in the best condition, but it is fully intact. The card itself is a bit rough. It's probably a pretty low grade on the card itself. But I had acquired it for a very reasonable price, and then I had it priced out, and it was worth about 50% more than I paid for it.
Wow.
Not that I'd sell it, but because it's Darth Vader and it's an original toy. So that made it important to me.
Right.
The collectible type thing, probably the most important one I had, and you didn't see it too well in the video because it's on a bottom shelf right now after I reorganized one of the curios, is a piece that we had gotten when we were at ZoloCon at the Fuge. It was a piece that came out in the 90s, mid-90s. I had been looking for it for the longest time, and they had 2 or 3 other pieces that came out that were like it. It was basically Darth Vader on the stairs from the carbon freeze chamber.
Okay.
And there's 3 other pieces that are of the same genre and style, all of which I have.
Okay.
But this was the original one, and I couldn't find it. And we went to ZoloCon the one time, and the last room that we went into, the last guy in the corner was the guy that had it at the top of his pile there. And I knew it didn't matter how much he was asking for it, I was buying it.
Okay.
And I did, and I got it for a reasonable price, and that was probably the biggest score. But really, there were 2 toys that I have that are not Star Wars that are probably my biggest scores. One is a very well-maintained Steve Austin from $6 Million Man. And one of the things about these dolls, one is through the back of the head, you could look through the back of the head, and he had a bionic eye, so he had a telescopic eye. So there's a hole in the back of the head that you can look through, and it's a telescope. But the other thing was he had on his arm, he had a piece of fake skin. It was just rubber that was on there, like flexible rubber that you could pull back, and you could see the bionics in his arm. Well, that almost always dry rots and falls off. The piece that I got, it was in very good condition. So that's one. And then the other one is, as I was growing up, I was a child of Transformers. And I always wanted to have an Optimus Prime, and unfortunately, my parents were not particularly well off. The couple of Transformers that I did get were some of the lower grade ones, and Optimus Prime was always exceedingly expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So we happened to be at Wizard World the one year,
Right.
and there was a person who had, it wasn't boxed, but it was complete. He had all the stuff to it because there's a ton of accessories to go in the trailer and everything else. And he, like, pieces that are normally missing because his hands come off and his gun comes off. So all these little pieces usually wind up missing. And he had the whole complete thing. And I saw it right at the beginning of the show. And I walked around for about 4 or 5 hours around that show debating whether or not to get it. And I made sure when I walked out of there, I had that piece. Mm-hmm. So they're actually the two non-Star Wars pieces that I think are probably they're not incredibly valuable pieces either. Mm-hmm. Like the Optimus Prime might be $150, and the $6 Million Man might be $100. They're not incredibly valuable,
right?
But they're very rare for the condition that they're in, and
mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things that I collect because it takes me back to my youth,
right?
And these are the two things that really take me back to my youth.
So, would you ever consider selling anything that's in your collection?
I'm sad to say that I actually did consider selling those two pieces specifically.
Yep.
I had been out of work. I'd been out of work for almost a year. Unemployment had run dry a few years back. This was almost 10 years ago now. And, you get to the point where you need to start making decisions so you could pay your bills. Mm-hmm. And I was going to broker the sale of these two items through Dan, our friend, because he was running his toy store at the time. Mm-hmm. And I packed everything up. We took it up there on a trip to one day, and I left it with him. And he was working to line up a buyer. And I don't know, a month, 2 months later, maybe I landed the job that I have now, and I grabbed those back and took them off the market because I did not want to sell them. So yes, under duress, I would sell them. Mm-hmm. But I don't see them as an investment. I don't see any of my collectibles as an investment.
Right.
My collectibles are nostalgia. Mm-hmm. They're a piece of, even if I buy something that I personally didn't own as a child, it's a part of my youth. Mm-hmm. And I like the surround. It's like almost like a warm blanket. A comfortable blanket, being surrounded by the things.
A warm hug.
That's what it is to me. It's something that's a very soothing thing. I can sit downstairs in my man cave and I can look around and I can enjoy the various pieces that I have and the victories that I, like the name of the podcast today, Thrill of the Hunt. The victories that I had in acquiring these things. I have no desire to sell any of these, but I don't expect my kids to have to hold on to them either. If God forbid I'm gone at some point in time and my kids don't want the stuff, it might be an opportunity for them to have a little bit of inheritance that they wouldn't otherwise normally have had because I spend a lot of money on my collectibles.
and I would like to think that, Maddie would keep a couple of pieces to remember us by.
Right.
To pass down to her, kids if she, has or
I could see that there's probably a couple of pieces Sam would want to keep.
Right.
But I wouldn't expect them to keep everything.
Right. I wouldn't. Yeah. And that's the thing is I wouldn't expect them to, to keep everything. But, it's also stuff where we pretty much know there's a buyer for it, you know. Whereas, like my mom, my parents never really collected, much of anything. And unfortunately, they had a mold problem in the house. So there was a lot of stuff that just had to get tossed, because it got ruined. Yeah. So there's like a couple of little things that I have from her house, nothing, big or major, mostly furniture, but nothing really collectible wise where, between the two of us, we have
Well,
why
and
not,
like
you
the
know?
kids aren't going to get rich off of our collection.
Right. They're not going to, you know.
Especially mine. Like my stuff, I don't collect my stuff for investment purposes.
Right. And I don't either, you know. But they're also not going to get, you know, like $5 for,
Right.
you know, something.
Well, I mean, yeah, like I spend, you know, I think the last piece that I bought was maybe a couple $100, and it holds its value, but it's not
Right.
doubling, tripling, quadrupling in
Right.
price.
Well, and that was the thing too. I happened to look before the show just to see, you know, the one Haunted Mansion miniature that I have, and Disney still sells it, so there's no markup. It's still the same price it was, you know, 3 or 4 years ago when we bought it. You know, so it's like, all right, well, it's good to know it's still holding its value. It's not like, oh, it's worth $10 now.
Right. And that's the thing.
You know,
Like the
type thing.
collectible pieces that I have, like there's a Darth Vader statue kneeling from Empire Strikes Back. There's the other Darth Vader statue on the stairs that I got. And, you know, there's like probably 6 or 7 pieces like that that they don't make anymore.
Right.
But even though the prices have gone up from what the retail price is, you're not going to Antique Roadshow and having a $50,000 Discovery show up.
Right,
You know,
right.
nothing like that.
Right.
And there are pieces out there that are still out of print that I would like to get. You know, there's one particular diorama. It's called the Diplomatic Mission, and it's Vader choking the Captain Antilles from A New Hope. And I'd love to get my hands on that because I missed the one opportunity I had to buy it at the time because I didn't have the money on me.
Right.
And I haven't been able to find it.
Right.
And that one originally went for, I'm going to say somewhere around $150, $200 at the time. And it's going for like $800 now if you buy it. That I would love to have that because it's a really cool piece. And it really epitomizes what Darth Vader is. But I won't spend $800 on it because I don't think it's worth that.
Right.
If I could spend somewhere close to what retail was at a show, I'd do that. But, you know, that's not going to happen because they made so few of them.
Right.
The one thing I would also want to add in there is kudos to IKEA for making such affordable curio cabinets because we have... What do we have? 4 of them now, I think? 3 of them?
Well, I have one, and you have
2 down
2.
there.
So we have,
yeah,
so
we love
3.
IKEA curios.
Yes.
They
Keep
work.
making.
Keep making them.
Yeah, that's where, you know, even my Haunted Mansion, a lot of my Haunted Mansion stuff is,
Yeah,
you
your
know.
cube that we have down
Yeah,
there now.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, IKEA.
anyway. Anything else that we wanted to talk about today?
Not that I can think of. Is there something that I missed?
Not that I'm aware of. We're not going to do any insightful picks this week.
Right. We'll save that for next week.
I didn't have anything to show off. The stuff that I would have shown off is stuff that's packed up and packed away. My Death Star, Assault the Death Star game, original, because they did reprint it in the same box art. But I have an original of that. My sail barge, Jabba sail barge game, that's packed away. My Darth Vader, my carded Darth Vader is all packed away. So I don't keep any of the really valuable stuff out on display unless it's designed to be on display. So I don't have anything to show.
It's okay.
Anyway. So I think that was it. We're about at the hour mark here.
Okay.
I think we showed everything we were looking to show. If anybody has any questions or would like to know more,
or make us an offer on something,
or make us an offer we can't refuse, we certainly are open. We'll be happy to answer any questions. Would also invite people to subscribe to the podcast. You can get us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, and pretty much any place you can get a podcast. You can get the audio versions of our podcast if you look for Insights into Entertainment. You can get the video versions of all of our podcasts listed as Insights into Things. And if you do want to reach out and give us some feedback or ask questions about any of the things we talked about today, You can email us at comments@insightsintothings.com.
You can find us on Twitter at insights_things.
We stream 6 days a week on Twitch at twitch.tv/insightsintothings.
You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/insightsintothingspodcast.
You can get us on Instagram at insightsintothings.
You can find the audio versions of all of our podcasts at podcast.insightsintoentertainment.com.
You can get high-res versions of our videos on YouTube at youtube.com/insightsintothings.
And if you don't remember any other website and you want to go to our main website, which also has links to our other podcasts as well, that is at insightsintothings.com.
And I think that's it. Another one in the books.
Have a good week, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.